This week on Lemon's Car Spotting.
Hey everybody, it is Eric and Nick. It is Lemon's Car Spotting. We're going to talk about some hoopties. Let's get to it.
Oh, yeah. Got ourselves a Fiat 128, kind of a later one. You can tell by the gigantic, ugly bumpers. 128s, I mean, it's one of those cars that in the U.S., I think sold okay. I mean, they were not totally weird to see, at least in the 80s, and then they disappeared entirely. They're known for rusting a lot, but more importantly, like globally, this became a Lada. It became a weird Polish license copy, and God knows what else. It just, is sort of a universal car in overseas markets. So it must not have been that bad. ?
Yeah. ? Indeed. This one looks like the back half is falling off it. Maybe it's just the bumper being crooked. The fading paint is exquisite on this one. It has faded from the top down in kind of a really impressive way. File this one under cars I've never seen in person in my entire life. Just nobody in the Midwest was going to buy a Fiat 128, or if they did, it didn't last long enough to make it to the small town where I lived. But, as you point out, it has the hallmarks of 1975 car design, which is, It is an car. So,
yeah. Yep. Well, that's a good choice. Moving onward.
Man.
The caddy that sucks.
And, this one's street parked, which in theory means that it might actually run. Boy, what do you say about the Catera? The 4-door attempt to compete with the 3 Series? ?
I want to say in 5 Series.
5 Series, yeah. Terrible V6. I mean, it's an Opel something. Somebody in the comments will know. Rear-wheel drive. So General Motors' plan in their infinite wisdom was to compete with German cars by having their own German car, which would be fine if they had been like, well, this is, a Buick or, an Oldsmobile. But nope, it went right to the top rung of General Motors. And then they tried to sell it at a premium when it was really kind of, an Opel in reality. And they dressed it up with leather and all that, but, automatic only. So it didn't have any of the actual sports sedan provenance. I don't know. I'm not explaining to you anything that you don't know as the viewer of Lemon's Car Spotting, but, everything about it was half-assed and that it didn't work very well on top of it. So,
I mean, what's amazing about the Catera in the context of Lemon's Car Spotting is this has got to be at least the 4th or 5th one we've seen. So they're still sort of out there in the wild, which is it's amazing to me. Yeah, both that they sold enough of them and that they still exist in 2023. So
yeah, it's probably been 3 or 4 years since I've seen one, but they're definitely still out there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there you go. Yes. Got ourselves a Prius Amino with a ladder rack. I mean, people have been aminoing and cheroing various cars over the years. There is no car, as far as I could tell, that is a bad choice to be an Amino. I mean, the Prius, God, why not? I mean, they run forever. They obviously get good mileage. They already have a hatchback, so that's easy to remove. And then, it's less cutting to do. And I mean, I really don't see a reason not to do this for sort of light duty hauling. I mean, granted, this is America where you need an F550 to go pick up your Bichon Frise from the vet. But, for everybody else, I mean, you can certainly put your yard tools or your bicycles or whatever you want in the back of this Prius Amino.
Yeah, I mean, this is the fleet vehicle that probably 90% of all fleets actually need. Like, unless you're hauling, a giant toolbox out into the sticks, whatever. If you're hauling sod or, a Bichon Frise, then here you go. You're going to get 50 miles per gallon driving around the town in this thing while it's carrying a bunch of weight. Maybe if Toyota were to make something like this, they would beef up the rear suspension a little bit. But other than that, it probably just does Toyota shit. So
yeah, that's the thing about Toyotas.
Yeah.
Next up.
Well, not only is this a hearse, this is one that has been it's had accoutrement added to it. They've made the kind of Gothic cathedral window in the back out of plywood, I think. It really doesn't look like it was part of the original design. And then, little graphic vinyl bats on the side, and then, the roof treatment off of the railing of a Victorian house. And, this is like the classic Halloween machine that somebody, because he's a hearse person, just drives around every day.
Yeah, well, and I think it really answers the question of what if the hearse and the church were the same thing? Wouldn't that simplify your funeral planning?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an incredible machine. And yeah, I agree. I feel like if you're a weird hearse person, or the kind of person that would have a hearse, then yeah, it becomes your daily driver. It's not a special occasion thing. It's just an integral part of your whole lifestyle. So yeah,
I want to point out that these were built on a stretched commercial chassis usually, which I think Cadillac would sell to coach builders. And there's a couple really cool things happening. First of all, the exhaust is exiting out of the chrome bumper, which is cool as hell. Love that. It's kind of hard to see, but it's in the little inset on either side of the license plate. The
sweet
rectangular exhaust. And also because it's like a 30-foot long commercial chassis, every panel on the body is sagging in a different direction.
Yeah, there's been some tectonic shift for sure.
Yeah, which, I mean, it just adds to the effect, actually. Kind of great.
All right, next up. Oh, Saturn. When they came out with the Saturn, one of the main selling points was the plastic body and how that they were just indestructible. It could not be damaged by anything. And yet here we are. Well, Judge Phil was just in the junkyard looking for a homecoming edition Saturn, which apparently was 2 years of, it was either a 94 or a 99. You could get homecoming edition Saturns.
Yep.
I only know this because Judge Phil was saying, row 52 says there's a homecoming edition Saturn in the pick and pull. I got to go find it. And I, of course, had to look it up to see. I was like, I don't know what this dude is talking about. And of course, I wound up on the Saturn forum, SaturnLife.com or whatever. Yeah. And there was a discussion about the homecoming editions. And some guy said, 94 homecoming edition SC2 is kind of my dream daily driver, which, okay, put that aside for the moment. Then the follow-up comment was, why would you use such a rare car for a daily driver? It's like, I'm on the Saturn forum. What am I doing?
Yeah, well, one, that's the most attainable dream I've ever heard in my entire life. And two, they're not rare. They weren't. God, if I remember the homecoming thing right, like there's a big deal about how they were built in Alabama near Huntsville. I think there's one plant built all the Saturns, and like it was in 1994 and in 1999, which were the 5th and 10th year anniversary of the announcement of the Saturn brand. They had like a big picnic like in front of the factory, and you could bring your Saturn. And then, there was like special parking for the homecoming edition. They called it the Saturn Homecoming. So all the cars had come home. It was almost clever in the way that General Motors is capable of being clever.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. It's sort of, I mean, it's like any other pilgrimage for something that's a little offbeat, except it's like actually sponsored by the manufacturer. I mean, that is a cool idea. But it's also a Saturn. So if anybody attended one of the Saturn homecomings, let us know in the comments what it was like. Whether whether it was like a singles event, that would be interesting. Go find yourself a connection at the Saturn homecoming.
I feel like it probably was a lot like Corvette events where you're like, oh, you got the 93, but you got the RPO package 821 with the seat inserts. Well, I got the 820 that doesn't have the seat inserts.
Oh, man. And what band was playing, and why was it Spin Doctors?
Well, I mean, Spin Doctors were still relevant in 1994.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a fair point.
I mean, they probably brought them back in 1999 when they were 5 years away from relevancy. But, by the way, the other, appeal of the plastic body panels was, they're easy to replace. In theory,
if you wanted
to,
All right, last car of the week. What the
is it? I think that's a Jetta towing a Sonata that has been
I was going to say an Elantra, but
this is a bad idea for so very many reasons. Although it's probably a diesel Jetta, so it probably is within the towing capacity. This calls to mind, my wife lived in Tulsa for years, so we did long distance for a couple of years. So I was driving back and forth to Tulsa frequently, and at least 4 or 5 of those times when I got to Rolla, Missouri, I saw this on the highway at 70 miles an hour. But it was like, the Hyundai was towing a Toyota Sienna. And it was like, I could not get far enough away from them fast enough. But I saw it enough times that it must be like insurance auctions, and then somebody's buying them up and doing something with them.
Well, and I think, and looking at this Jetta, it's got some kind of different taillights on it. And so I think that it might be, totally an insurance auction. But I think it's a thing where they wind up going to Mexico and getting rebuilt somehow. And if that Jetta is a Mexican market Jetta, hence the different taillights, that would track. But I've heard stories, mostly from, places closer to the border, that this is totally a thing. And like, for some reason, there's like a loophole where like there's no requirements for anything. And so it'll be like, the crappiest car towing something that's even worse, if not like having more than one.
Yeah, there's trains. Yeah.
And then like all you got to do is get to the border and then you'll be fine. So if anybody is familiar with the ins and outs of the Mexican insurance auction rebuilding cycle, and in the interim, the car convoy, the flat tow of car with other car, let us know. How does that all work?
You just described like every like Western movie where we're like, we got to get out of the jurisdiction. They can't catch us here. And
they should do Smokey and the Bandit 4 Mexican insurance auction convoy.
Well, there's your theme for Lemons is the Smokey and the Bandit, Smokey and El Bandito.
Yeah. Oh man. How do you say snowman in Spanish?
I drew the hooptiest for this one. A Saturn driving around with a missing door panels, pretty up there, but we really don't need to go anywhere. This is some seriously sketchball stuff, like a modern Elantra's. Like, that's a 3,100-pound car that you're doing with a front-wheel drive passenger sedan. That's boy, that sure is something.
It's definitely a thing. Let's see. I've got the Lemons build. This is a 2-car solution here. God, has anybody ever done that? Like, towed a Lemons car to a race and then raced both? Like the tow car was also in the race?
I don't think so. I know the pair of Peugeot 405 MI16s came through BS inspection with one of them towing the other on a front tow, but they hadn't. It was just a presentation thing, although a really good one, because a 405 towing a 405, pretty solid.
Great optics for sure. All right, I've got the Lemons build, car we most want to see in a Lemons race. Saturn, Jetta. I have something on my notes that says heavy duty. What does that mean? Oh, yeah. Heavy duty. I think I started to write hearse, and then my brain went to heavy duty. This is probably on that note past our 4,200-pound weight limit.
On the note that we had just finished up, we have seen several teams tow their Lemons cars with a hearse, though.
Right. Like Eric says, commercial chassis, usually big block something, and all the comforts of a hearse or a limo.
Yep.
Excellent choice for a tow vehicle. But I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. Prius Amino is pretty neat, but Catera, I'm going to go all the way back to the Fiat 128. Fiat is always a good choice for a Lemons car. It's people do race these. It's sort of that classic, it's in the range of the Datsun 510 and BMW 2002, a sort of common-ish car that has the basic bones that can be made into something sporty. Because it's a Fiat, you can put a different drivetrain in it, and Lemons judges won't really care. Miata motor, whatever. Plenty of historic liveries to choose from. These are incredibly lightweight, which is one of the reasons why they rusted out so quickly. They made a very thin and not protected sheet metal. Make one of these into your Lemons car.
Yeah, if you want to see these things in action, go to YouTube and type in European rally crashes, and you will find people rally these all over the continent. These and the Lada, both of them. They're rear-wheel drive, they're light, they're easy to drive. They make not enough power, so people will slide them around the gravel roads until they find the ditch and then catapult over. Anyway. Point is, these things have been raced for decades, and you could be part of that long tradition in Lemons. So there you go.
Yes, you can. And until then, keep taking pictures of your weird cars that you found on the street, post them to Instagram, and we'll find them. Rally lights on the front, Italian flag paint scheme, some nice wheels. You're pretty styling at that point.
Yep. I love, what is Italian for dog dish hubcaps?